Oh yes, that's right, we're doing it. It's the start of a new generation and frankly we couldn't be more excited, besides the fact we're about to burn through $500,000. The Xbox Series X/Xbox Series S is a nightmare of confusing nomenclature, but it's also our first taste of what the new consoles can do, and therefore what PCs were able to do 6 or 7 years ago. And what better way to explore this updated technology than by ranking every launch game from worst to best?
We'll be honest, we've not played every Xbox Series X/Xbox Series S launch game yet. We do know some people who have, however. Critics on the internet who, as we know, are never wrong. Also, if we'd ranked these games according to personal preference, you'd all say mean things about our taste in the comments section, and I don't like that. So, to protect our delicate egos, we will be deferring to Metacritic.
The rules are simple. Based on critical consensus, we will rank every Xbox Series X/Xbox Series S launch game from worst to best. We are defining launch games as games released on November the 10th, 2020. That may seem obvious as it's also the launch date of the Xbox Series X/Xbox Series S, but you'll see why that's important when we get to the PS5 video.
Beyond that, Microsoft has been generously calling every Xbox One game that runs on the new hardware a launch game, but we're being a bit more particular. Basically, if it's released on a disc, it counts. Re-releases of Xbox One games count as long as they've actually been enhanced and don't just run better by default. We won't be counting digital-only games, however, unless they are properly enhanced versions of Xbox One games that were previously available on disc. Easy.
Let's rank 'em. I'm Ben.
And I'm Peter from TripleJump, and this is every Xbox Series X/S launch game ranked from worst to best.
Number 17. NBA 2K21. 68%. Xbox One. I will say up front that Metacritic scores are subject to change, and in many cases, re-releases of previous gen games have gotten few new reviews. In these cases, we'll go by the Xbox One version's Metacritic average. NBA 2K21 is releasing for both Microsoft's launch and Sony's, which means we'll have to write 2 entries worth of material about what is basically a mediocre basketball game with far too many microtransactions. Also, I dislike this game's title. You don't save any space when you write 2K21, you can just write 2021 at that point. Yes, I know the publisher is called 2K Sports, but the title annoys me and I need to vent. Where was I? Oh, right, basketball. NBA 2K21 is the story of many basketballers attempting to put basketballs into baskets in the year 2K21. Critics looked at it, shrugged, and said, "It's a basketball game, all right." You'd probably do the same. Number 16. Sea of Thieves. 69%. Nice. Xbox One. Would you believe Sea of Thieves was the Xbox One's most successful new IP? I don't know why I asked you that, because it doesn't matter whether or not you believe it. It was. Facts don't care about your feelings. Anyway, it's also available for the new Xbox systems. This isn't surprising, though it may disappoint anyone who had hoped to see a sequel instead. Still, the game has come a long way from its difficult launch in 2018. It was originally criticised for its lack of content and repetitive simplicity. Its review average unquestionably suffered for that fact, but a whopping 20 major expansions addressed those issues and more. This enhanced version will certainly be a treat for anyone who skipped the Xbox One, as it features both reduced loading times and a brand new ship with Xbox colours. If that doesn't excite you, I don't know what will. Number 15. Maneater. 71%. Xbox One. Maneater might be the poster child for games that should have been far better than they actually were. You play as a bull shark who terrorizes the waters of Port Clovis. In addition to eating lots and lots of delicious people, you can battle other sea creatures to expand your dominion. It sounds great, but ultimately it couldn't live up to its own ambition. It received middling reviews, with critics almost uniformly underwhelmed by what should have been a can't-miss premise. Its promotion to the new hardware, available at retail no less, is a puzzling choice. If you absolutely must play a shark game with RPG elements, Maneater does indeed exist, but we can't imagine this upgrade was worth whatever development time it required. Having said that, it will be up against fewer games at release than it was on the Xbox One, so maybe it'll find the maybe 6 or 7 people on the planet who will enjoy it. Number 14. The Falconeer, 72%. Xbox Series X/S. Falconry, or falconeering if you want to use an alternate term for this, is the ancient art of hunting with a trained bird of prey. It dates back to at least 2000 BCE, but there are indications that this was by no means a recent innovation at the time. It also has a lot in common with this Xbox Series X/Xbox Series S launch game in the sense that they both involve falcons. The Falconeer is described as an ocean world airborne fantasy RPG, and that sounds lovely. But to be fair, flying around on a giant bird shooting monsters out of the sky sounds lovely even before you start to define the genre. It doesn't quite live up to its lofty potential, however. Critics took issue with its confusing story, unreliable hit detection, and lack of checkpoints. Its dogfighting, or the bird fighting, also gets repetitive quickly. Even the sourest of critics had to admit that the game looked gorgeous, however, so have at it. Number 13. Warhammer Chaosbane Slayer Edition, 73%. Xbox Series X/S. An enhanced version of 2019's Warhammer Chaosbane makes its way to the next generation of Xbox consoles. This top-down action RPG is about, well, it's about hacking your way through endless waves of tiny enemies you might be able to see if you squint. You scoop loot out of their spilled intestines and walk several meters before doing it again. Critics were not particularly impressed, with the game being described as repetitive, lacking content, and being surprisingly boring for a game about disemboweling monsters. But how does the enhanced version fare? Well, it introduces a new character class, more enemies, reworked environments, new levels, and an improved interface. Basically, it offers things that fans of the original release would have appreciated in the first place, and which will do nothing for anyone else. It does include all of the previous DLC though, so at least this disappointing game is bigger now.
Number 12. Watch Dogs Legion, 77% Xbox One. Hostile Granny Simulator Watch Dogs Legion is a launch game for both Sony's consoles and Microsoft's, which is good because it was one of the most anticipated games. You'll get to enjoy it no matter which console you bought, unless you bought the Switch, but let's be honest, you knew full well you would not be playing Watch Dogs Legion if you bought the Switch. Legion moves the action from an American nightmare to a British one, which we deserve lately, to be fair. Your goal is to liberate London from its dystopian surveillance state, brought about either because not enough people read 1984 or because the wrong people did read it. The main draw of the game is the ability to recruit a wealth of characters and then accidentally get them killed. Critics mainly took issue with the hollow narrative, though they were split on the gameplay itself, which suffers from Ubisoft's now distinctive bloat. Number 11. No Man's Sky, 77% Xbox One. Ah, No Man's Sky, the little game that could, and then couldn't, and then could again, but does anyone actually trust it to at this point? It's difficult to find anyone on the internet who doesn't already have a strong opinion on No Man's Sky. It is worth noting, however, that after a debut that went about as well as eating petrol station sushi before a job interview, Hello Games kept working on it and introduced massive amounts of new features. Okay, yes, some of them were just what we were promised in the first place, but still, that is admirable. And even now, more than 4 years after the game's launch, it's still receiving new content, with the cleverly named Next Generation update coinciding with the new console release. If you didn't play No Man's Sky at launch, that's probably for the best. Picking it up now will give you an experience far superior in every way. Number 10. Gears Tactics, 79% Xbox Series X/S. Final Fantasy Tactics, Fallout Tactics, now Gears Tactics. If you don't have a Tactics, do you even have a franchise? Can someone look up the release date of Sackboy Tactics, please? When Gears Tactics was announced, fans scratched their heads. Admittedly, they didn't scratch their heads clean off their necks like they did when they saw that Gears of War Funko Pops game, but there was a bit of scratching nonetheless. Would the brutal over-the-shoulder action translate to a traditional turn-based strategy game? As it turns out, yes, but not without some teething trouble. Gears Tactics received largely positive reviews. The one thing just about everyone criticised though was that, well, you couldn't see any of it. Even when zoomed in, players had to rely on the HUD to be told what they were actually looking at. Not a good look, Gears Tactics. Like, literally, a bad look. Otherwise though, it's gone down pretty well, with particular kudos going to how true the sounds and animations are to the main series games. Number 9. Dirt 5, 82%, Xbox Series X/S. Dirt 5 is the 14th installment in the Colin McRae Rally series of racing games. It's also the 8th Dirt game. Why are developers so bad at counting? Anyway, Colin McRae Rally 14 is an off-road racer that takes place in various locations around the world, including New York, China, and Morocco. Please do remember to self-quarantine when entering and exiting the country. The game features both a dynamic weather system and different seasons, which affect the events that are available, as well as split-screen multiplayer for up to 4 racers. Also, there are characters voiced by, what does that say? Nolan North and Troy Baker, 2 voice actors I've never heard of, hope they're good. Critics were impressed with the level of visual detail in the game, though they were split on the art direction, with some clearly preferring more realistic graphics that would have taxed the new hardware a bit more. Number 8. Borderlands 3, 82%, Xbox One. Is Borderlands 3 any good? Well, Ben's been playing it regularly since September 2019, so maybe. It's not for everybody, we admit. Some are turned off by the repetition, the humour, and the reliance on procedurally generated weapons as rewards. Others, of course, love it for exactly those things. Either way, Borderlands has been one of the biggest hits of the past few generations, and Borderlands 3 is the best-selling game in the series. Porting it to the newest consoles then was a no-brainer. Now a new generation of players can guide their vault hunters of choice to distant worlds to find what is sure to be great wealth and fame, and not a violent, cel-shaded hellscape at all. Critics enjoyed it, even if there were complaints of the game being more of the same. Since that's exactly what most people who bought Borderlands 3 wanted though, that's hardly a problem.
Number 7. Planet Coaster Console Edition, 84%. There's nothing like digging through a stack of launch titles for your new console and finding a PC game from 4 years ago staring back up at you. Of course, as its name suggests, Planet Coaster Console Edition has been tailored to the new hardware and has obviously had its entire control scheme revamped, meaning you can use your Xbox Series X or S to torment innocent little digital people with your amusement park from hell. Upon its original release, fans of Roller Coaster Tycoon were pleased because it was what fans wished Roller Coaster Tycoon would have continued to be. Planet Coaster is essentially a spiritual sequel, and even if it doesn't hit the heights of that series, it's still a welcome continuation. The console edition adds a significant amount of content, including hundreds of blueprints for new objects. Then, there's the Frontier Workshop, which allows players to share creations and upload their parks to torment little digital people the world over. You love to see it. Number 6. Gears 5, 84%, Xbox One. If you owned an Xbox One, the odds are good you've already played Gears 5. In fact, I'd wonder why you purchased an Xbox One if you weren't a Gears of War fan, but that's neither here nor there. Gears 5 could serve as a decent entry point for new players, if only because it has more to offer than just being the 5th numbered entry in a series. It leans more heavily on exploration than its predecessors, for instance, and has a greater emphasis on narrative. It also stars Kate Diaz, who is every bit as irresistibly likable as her voice actor Laura Bailey. Kate was introduced in the previous game, and positive fan reception led to her getting a greater spotlight here. Fans of the entire series will certainly get more out of Gears 5 than newcomers, but critics loved it enough that it's probably worth diving in if you have any interest at all. Number 5. Fortnite, 85%, Xbox One. What could I possibly say about Fortnite that would make a difference to how you already feel? The answer, of course, is nothing, but sitting here in silence would not be a good use of your time or mine. If you somehow have not heard of Fortnite, it's a game in which 100 strangers visit an island and shoot at each other whenever they aren't flossing. As each round progresses, the safe area shrinks, forcing the participants to get closer and become good friends, or slaughter each other. Okay, it's the second one. The only main upgrades to the game seem to be in terms of its graphical presentation and performance, but that may turn out to be enough for fans of the game. Importantly, you can carry your progress over from the previous version, meaning your deep, personal investment in your avatar will not be lost. Floss on, little ones.
Number 4. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, 85% Xbox Series X/S. If you enjoy Vikings stabbing people and Vikings stabbing people, Assassin's Creed Valhalla will be right up your alley, which incidentally is where you'll be receiving the sharp end of a sword if you don't keep your wits about you in this game. Ubisoft's Ubi worlds have taken heat over the years for being overstuffed with dull side missions and collectibles, strongly emphasising quantity over quality. But that doesn't mean the games aren't fun. There's something so addictive about scampering over rooftops, taking in the views, and slaying peasants who had the gall to accidentally bump into you in a crowd. Plus, Valhalla takes place during a fictional 9th century Viking invasion of Britain. I think we can all agree that this qualifies as beautiful escapism at this point. If you've been sick of Assassin's Creed for the past several games, Valhalla probably won't win you back, as it is still broadly more of the same. Critics did enjoy the improvements made upon Origins and Odyssey, however, so if you are a fan of the series, you should be in good hands. Number 3. Yakuza Like a Dragon, 86% Xbox Series X/S. For Westerners, this will very much be a case of Like a Dragon touched for the very first time, as this has been exclusive to Japan since January. Normally that might not merit mention, but since it feels like 2020 has been about 15 years long, I think it's significant that we're finally getting hold of a game that came out at the start of the year before we knew what we were in for. Like a Dragon is the story of new protagonist Ichiban Kasuga and his quest to learn the real reason he was imprisoned for 18 years. A quest that will frequently be interrupted by karaoke sequences, go-karting, and various other mini-games. Nice to know he's taking it seriously, hey. This is of course classic Yakuza, but the fighting system has been entirely reimagined, combining the turn-based combat you see in traditional RPGs with the environmental interaction you'd see in something closer to a brawler. Sega has said that if this new style is badly received, they will go back to the original, like they adamantly refused to do with Sonic the Hedgehog. Fortunately, critics and fans both seem to enjoy it, so if it wasn't already on your radar, give it a look. Number 2. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, 87% Xbox One. Devil May Cry has been a consistently strong series ever since its debut on the PS2, with average scores in the mid-80s and above. Except for Devil May Cry 2, of course, but that game doesn't exist and I just made it up as a joke, so let's move on. 2019's Devil May Cry 5 is in the running for the best entry in the franchise, at least according to the critics, and we're glad to see a special edition launching with the new consoles. This version includes all DLC, adds Virgil as a playable character, increases the game's speed by 20% in turbo mode, improves performance, enhances the presentation, and introduces legendary Dark Knight mode for anybody crazy enough to wish the game were even more difficult. It's an excellent entry point for anyone who has yet to experience the stylish brutality of this series for themselves, but it's still not the best game in the Xbox Series X/S launch lineup. That honour goes to
Number 1. Forza Horizon 4, 92%. Xbox One. It's Forza, you bought an Xbox. By all logic, you either already bought this game, or it's sitting in your Amazon cart waiting for payday, and I can't blame you. It's a great one.
Forza Horizon 4 released originally in 2018 and has been updated with new vehicles, new modes, and balancing tweaks. There's even a 72-player Battle Royale mode, which has been a legal obligation for all games released after 2017. The Eliminator, as this mode is called, is an interesting spin on the Forza formula, and gives the game even more replayability than usual. Oh, and there was also the LEGO expansion, which instantly made Forza Horizon 4 the greatest game ever released.
Critical scores hover between 80% and 96%, and it's won several awards. But will a years-old racing game really stand out on your new Xbox? Judging by review averages, the answer is clearly yes. It's bound to be a bit less appealing if you aren't already a fan of racing games, but it will be a great way to experience the speed and processing power of your new console. And hey, isn't that the entire point of launch games?
In all, that brings the average score of the Xbox Series X/S launch lineup to 79.59%. How does that stack up against Sony's launch? Stick with the channel and find out very soon.
And that's our list, and it was our shortest worst to best video yet. We had to cut out a number of Xbox One re-release fluff titles, but even so, I'm not sure if that means you should feel shortchanged or if you should thank me.
Which is your favourite launch game? Are there any digital-only games you'd recommend? Are you only watching this to kill time before our PS5 video comes out? Let us know in the comments below.
You can follow TripleJump on Twitter here, and while you're at it, why not support the things you enjoy by having a look at our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Ben.
And I'm Peter from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.